They sat me down at the bank with a $25,000 envelope. I said one word: revoked. At the bank, my son-in-law slid an envelope. 25,000. Just sign the papers. I kept my voice calm. Your power of attorney expired. Here's the revocation. POA revoked. I never thought there'd come a day when my own daughter would invite me to the bank like some client being forced to sign papers. Yet, on that Friday morning, there I was, sitting in the glass-walled conference room of First Central Bank, across from Emma and her husband, Derek. The carpet reeked of chemicals, clean in that cold, sterile way. My hand touched the wooden armrest, roughened by decades of labor. In this room, hands like mine never seemed to belong. Emma avoided my eyes. Her hair was pulled tight, lips pressed thin. Derek leaned forward instead, wearing the confident posture of someone who thought he held the upper hand. His suit was crisp, shoes polished to a shine. I looked down at my own worn boots, and it felt like two generations were staring each other down. Derek slid a thick envelope across the table. It landed with a soft thud. $25,000, he said. That's enough. All you have to do is sign these papers and everything will be tidy. The envelope sat there, heavy, like the price they were putting on their old man's life. I glanced at Emma. She said nothing, only flicked her eyes toward the stack of documents in front of me. The papers, Derek repeated. Just a simple adjustment, power of attorney, an update to the estate. We've arranged it all, you just need to sign. A sharp pain ran through my chest. My daughter, my son-in-law, reducing me to some burden to be managed. $25,000. After all the years I broke my back paying mortgages, tuition, car loans, patching up every crisis they landed in. I kept my voice steady. So this is your solution, an envelope and a few signatures? Derek smirked, eyes glinting cold. That's all you'll ever get. The words cut straight to the bone. Emma flinched but didn't object. Her silence hurt worse than his cruelty. I picked up the envelope, weighed it in my hand. It was heavy, yes, but full of nothing but money, without a shred of respect. My thumb ran along the edge of the paper before I set it back down. Carefully, as if I'd touched something filthy. On the table, the stack of pristine papers waited for my signature. Derek tapped his pen impatiently. Click, click, click. No, I said. My voice was low, but it filled the room. Derek's smile died. What did you say? No, none of these papers are valid. Your power of attorney ended last month. Emma's head snapped toward me. What? I pulled a folded sheet from my jacket pocket and laid it on the table. Revocation notice. Filed. Time-stamped. With the bank's read receipt. I sent the originals to both of you. The bank officer sitting quietly in the corner looked uncomfortable, glanced at the document, then cleared his throat. Derek scowled. You can't. I can. And I already did. I cut him off. Now every account pings an alert if there's any unauthorized access. The verification password has been changed. You know what it is? Peaches. They blinked, not understanding. But I did. A word tied to my grandson Mason and the peach pies he always brought over. A code no one in this room could ever touch. Emma's lips trembled, her eyes darting to Derek. His face flushed, jaw tightening. I set one more item on the table. A silver USB stick. On here is a copy of last month's group chat. The one where you two discussed putting me in a facility under the excuse of capacity issues. I don't need to open it. All that matters is you knowing I've already read every word. The room went dead silent. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed to vanish. The wooden house in Brookside, Ohio, greeted me with the familiar scent of polished wood. The window made a faint sound as I opened it, as if welcoming someone who had just come through a storm. I set my keys on the porcelain dish, hung my coat, and went straight to the wooden cabinet with the brass lock. The lock was still tight, cool under my fingertips. I opened it, pulled out the bottom drawer. Inside was a blue folder, labeled in faded marker. Emma, expenses. I carried it to the dining table, the dark wood surface shining from generations of beeswax polish. The old radio in the kitchen crackled softly with an unnamed tune. Just an acoustic guitar. I sat down in Helen's armchair, my wife's. The seat hollowed by her shape, soft like a sigh. Then I opened the folder. The photocopied pages had yellowed at the edges. Check images clipped to each expense. Rent the year Emma got married. Car repairs when the engine blew. The deposit for their first apartment when Derek was starting out. There were even wire receipts straight into their account. Every emergency with a new excuse. I flipped fast, then slowed. Notes in my own ink, neat and cold. April 2012. Cosign auto loan for Emma and Derek. Beside it was the original cosign letter from 2012. The dealership stamp still visible. I remembered that afternoon, Helen saying, "Just sign, love. We're still strong. The kids need it." And I signed. To this day, that paper still feels like a small trap lying in wait. I pulled out a blank A4 sheet, typed a few lines on the laptop, then printed it. From the drawer, I took a red pen and wrote boldly across the page. Total given, $932,400. Returned, $0. Respect. Variable. I placed it on top, letting the number glare across the kitchen like the strike of a gavel. Not to pun, I'll be home. I'll bring peach pie, the kind you like, and I don't need anything. I just want to sit and eat with you. I chuckled, short. I'll be waiting. Drive safe. Yes, sir. Grandpa, are you okay? Somewhat. I cleared out some papers today. Feels a bit lighter. Then I'll see you tonight. Grandpa, I'll bring peaches. I hung up, looked back at the folder. Each expense was like a short story left unfinished. I pulled my chair closer to the small desk, opened my email. Attorney Marion Price had sent a confirmation the night before. Trust funded. See attached ledger and file hash for records. I clicked the attachment, checked the SHA 256 hash at the end. Numbers stretching long like an oath, solid, unshakable. I printed 2 pages, the spendthrift clause and emergency use with documentation. White paper, black words. I took a yellow highlighter and marked, "No distributions shall be made to satisfy a beneficiary's creditors." And emergency distributions require written documentation and approval by the trustee. I read aloud quietly, slowly, as if speaking to myself. No one bleeds money out of me under the name of emergency anymore. Not even my own child. The radio shifted to the news, then cut off. The kitchen hummed with the sound of the refrigerator running smooth. I thought suddenly of Helen. She used to keep a little notebook in the drawer, writing down every roll of paper towels, every bottle of milk. She said, "Money has memory, Robert. We have to teach the kids to remember." I had taught by giving money, not by keeping memory. That was my mistake. The landline rang, an unknown number. I picked up. "Mr. Henderson, this is Richard Bales from First Central. I'm confirming the access changes have been completed. Any unusual login attempts will trigger alerts. The verification keyword is peaches," I said. He chuckled softly. "Yes, I just repeat it so you can feel secure." I do feel secure. Good. If anything comes up, we'll call directly on this landline in your cell. Thank you. I set the phone down, stood, poured 2 glasses of water. One for me, one to leave there. An old habit, always set out an extra glass, as if waiting for someone to return. The next morning, Mason and I stood before the frosted glass door of Marion Price's office. Inside, everything was neat. No heavy perfume, just paper, pens, and people who knew how to use them. Marion shook my hand, then Mason's. "We'll keep this fast, clear, and solid," she said. I nodded. Mason opened his notebook, clicked his pen. He sat still, looking straight ahead. No phone tapping, no bouncing knee. I felt at ease. Marion laid out a stack of papers. "This is your irrevocable trust, final version. Primary beneficiary, Mason Henderson. Charitable beneficiary, Brookside Senior and Veterans Center. Key provisions: spendthrift, emergency use with documentation, successor trustee." I'll explain briefly, in plain language, no runaround. She flipped a page and marked lines with a yellow highlighter. Spendthrift. If someone's in debt, creditors can't touch this trust. Emergency use. Funds are only disbursed for a genuine emergency, with documentation, approved in writing by the trustee. Successor trustee. If you're unable to decide, the designated person decides for you. Here, I listed myself as first successor, Richard Bales as second. Mason wrote down each line. I asked, "What if someone calls at midnight?" Marion answered, "No midnight call moves money. Everything goes through paperwork. Law exists to create accountability, not to listen to sob stories." She moved on to the will. The will has been amended to mirror the trust. Deposits with vendors remain as is. Final payment will be made only upon performance, per the no payment, no performance clause. I've included a written notice to make that explicit. There's no last-minute reversal that invalidates anything. Everything is by the book, by the clause. I felt my shoulders drop a little. Not because of winning or losing, because things were clear. 2 witnesses are in the outer room. The door opened softly. 2 people came in, signed, noted the time. The camera faced me. I stated my full name, date of birth, address, and clearly said, "I'm of sound mind. I'm acting voluntarily. No one is coercing me." The camera clicked off. Marion reviewed the signatures. Every box was complete. She pressed the notary seal to the paper, a small, firm thump. It felt like bolting a door. "And this," she said, taking a cotton paper envelope from the drawer. Thick, smooth. Letter to Mason, printed on archival paper, sealed. "One copy is in our files. This one is for you to keep. You may deliver it whenever you choose." Mason looked at the envelope for one long breath. He didn't reach for it. I glanced over. He nodded, understood. I slipped the envelope into my inside coat pocket. Marion looked at me, hesitated a second, then set a red binder on the table. "I meant to give this later, but today seems right." The red cover felt slightly textured, the spine tightly bound. 2 letters were debossed at the corner, H and R. I set my palm on it, slowly. My heartbeat changed. "Helen's legacy binder," Marion said softly. "She left it for you through me 3 years ago. It has 2 layers of documents. The outer layer looks like it trims your authority to throw off anyone snooping. The inner layer is the real one, unlocked by the H&R mark and a passphrase." She looked at me. "You already know it." I smiled faintly. "Peaches." Marion nodded. "Correct. Enter it and the appendix panel releases. Inside is Helen's ethical intent. Anyone who wants to receive must give. No one takes money without serving the community." There's a handwritten apology template. There's a mentor a young person section at the Veterans Workshop. And there's a voice note Helen sent to the parish priest, a third party, confirming that your decisions are voluntary, clear-minded, and reflect what the 2 of you discussed long ago. Mason paused for a beat. I heard my own name in my head pass through Helen's voice. I opened the cover. The outer layer sat on top. Cold, dry language, like it wanted a skimmer to jump to the wrong conclusion. I flipped past the plastic sleeve and touched the H+R tab. My fingers tapped 3 times, like knocking on the old front door. I said quietly, "Peaches." The panel clicked open. The appendix appeared. Helen's handwriting, slightly slanted, even. A page with blue ink marks. "Robert, if you're reading this, it means you've come to a place of peace. Remember, our family's justice must have discipline, and it must have heart." Below was a checklist of ethical conditions, brief without flourishes. I saw Mason swallow. He sat up straighter. Marion slid over another envelope with a small wax seal. A letter from the parish priest, sealed. For a public event when a third-party testimony is needed. I recommend keeping it sealed until then. Don't open it here. She looked at me and Mason. This is a legal blade that still feels warm. I closed the binder and held it to my chest in an instinct no one taught me. The doorbell rang at 3 in the afternoon. I didn't rush. I stacked the papers neatly on the living room table. Printouts of the group chat, cease and desist, no contact terms. Vendor notices with the accountant's email timestamps. On top sat the red legacy binder, closed. Helen's photo rested on the shelf, tilted slightly toward my chair. I opened the door. Emma and Derek stood there. Derek carried a paper bag, the smell of fresh coffee. "Dad," Emma said, forcing a smile, "we just want to talk." "Good," I said. "Come in, sit." Derek set the coffee bag on the table, pulled out a cup, slid it toward me. I shook my head. "Leave it." He pulled his hand back, set the cup right on top of the envelope he'd just written. Paper pressed down, stained by a damp ring. I didn't wipe it. "You misunderstood," Derek began. "The bank thing, it was for safety. Emma worries about you. I do too. Worry enough to draft a POA, pretending it's an adjustment of inheritance?" I lifted the group chat printout, flipped to the page with bolded text. "Move him to a facility quietly. Capacity concern will fly." I read each word slowly. I didn't need to look at their faces to hear Emma swallow hard. "Dad," Emma whispered. I was under pressure. My mother-in-law keeps comparing me. Her family calls me a freeloader, says I don't know how to manage. Derek's drowning in debt. I was afraid of shame. I was afraid. "I grew up poor," Derek cut in, voice blunt. "I swore I'd never go back there. I can't stand being looked down on for an empty wallet. I have to keep appearances, keep things tidy." "By moving a father out of the way?" I asked. Short, sharp. No one answered. I let silence fill the room long enough to hear the clock tick. Already clipped to his cosign. 2012, Amendment plus Release Clause, 2016. Company seal, full signatures. I slid it toward him. I was released from responsibility in 2016. There's the amendment. There's the seal. There's the scanned copy emailed at 9:12 a.m., time-stamped. "You say sue?" "Sue who?" Derek went silent. He stared at the 2016 page. I saw his hand loosen, just for a second. Emma glanced around the room, her eyes landing on Helen's photo. Her shoulders dropped. I was wrong," she said softly. "I let other people lead me. I was scared of being mocked, of being poor, of losing face. I forgot who my father is." I nodded, neither comforting nor piling on. "Let's get to the point." I pulled out 2 separate sheets, laid them clearly in front of them. "I'm offering 2 choices," I said, voice flat as the table. A. Write a handwritten apology, not email, not text. For me and for yourselves. 12 weeks of volunteer work. Emma, City Library, Tuesday evenings. Derek, Veterans Workshop, Thursday evenings. Sign the no harassment clause. No midnight calls, no forcing me into meetings, no rallying relatives, no online smears. 1 violation and the deal is void. Complete it fully and sincerely, and I'll consider a micro-grant to cover 3 months' interest payments, not the principal. B. Refuse? Immediately. Cease and desist plus protective order. I've already prepared them. Your names are here. Vendor notices have been sent, deposits held, finals delayed under the no payment, no performance clause, citing client breach, insults, failure to meet conditions, unilateral changes. All backed by the accountant's email timestamps. I slid the cease and desist left, the no contact terms right. The papers rasped across the table. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. "Dad," Emma said, eyes red. "If I finish the 12 weeks, will you forgive me?" "I don't sell forgiveness by the responsibility is yours. Do it first, then speak." Derek shifted. "What about my pride?" "Earn it through work," I cut him off, "not with my name on an account, not by shoving me into a facility for easier control." He looked at Helen's photo, For a moment his face softened. I know she'd hate the way I've done this. He swallowed. But I was scared. I've been at the bottom. I've been at the bottom too, I said, quiet but firm. But I didn't drag family down to climb out. The room fell still again. Wind slipped through the doorframe, stirring the old curtain. A coat hook by the door clattered to the floor. Emma flinched. She bent to pick it up. The broken edge nicked her hand. A small red bead of blood. She looked at me, lost, like a child. I handed her a bandage. "Patch it," I said. "A cut is less than a slow bleed." She froze, then nodded. Patched, said nothing. I pulled the no-contact sheet closer. "Read carefully, big letters, easy. If you choose A, sign here today. Tomorrow submit your volunteer schedule. Next week, you start. If you choose B, I sign right now." Derek looked up. "You'll actually notify everyone? Vendors? The bank?" "I already have," I said. "Here are the read receipts." I flipped the stack, pointed at the timestamp lines. "Everything's recorded. Money without memory makes fools. I'm no fool anymore." Emma reached for the pen. Her hand shook. "I choose A," she said, low and clear. "I'll write the apology. I'll go to the library Tuesday nights. I won't bother you again. I want to make this right." Derek didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on the 2016 amendment. "And me?" "Your choice," I said. He looked at me a few seconds more, then sighed, so quietly I almost missed it. "I choose A. I'll go to the Veterans Workshop Thursday nights. I will write the letter." I nodded, no praise. "Sign." They signed. They tapped the stack even against the table. "Good. From now on, the boundary is here." I set my finger along the folder's edge. "You don't have to love my boundaries." The Winter Gala at Brookside Senior and Veterans Center began with the scent of fresh paint and warm wood. Yellow lights glowed along the hallway, leather-covered handrails soft to the touch. No more metallic chill. At one corner of the lobby stood a reception table. On the dark blue cloth rested a brass plaque under velvet. Helen Henderson Wing. I stood half a step back, clutching the red legacy binder. Mason stood beside me, holding a leather notebook, and where he found it I don't know. A small peach pie in a paper box. He whispered, "After the ceremony, let's celebrate, Grandpa." I nodded. Not to celebrate winning, to celebrate peace. The center's director invited everyone to sit. The small hall was lined with folding chairs. Elderly folks in dark sweaters, broad-shouldered veterans, a few with canes. Marion Price sat in the second row, giving me a reassuring look. Emma and Derek arrived late. They chose the back row. I saw Emma clutching a white envelope, her hand gripping its corner tight. When the MC called my name, I stepped onto the stage. I spoke little, slow, each word clear. This south wing once leaked. Today, it's warm. Not because of money, because of intent. The applause was modest. I placed the legacy binder on the podium, turned it so everyone could see the embossed H&R. I looked toward Father Thomas, the priest who had married Helen and me. He nodded. His voice was deep and warm. "Before we dedicate this wing, allow me to read Helen's testimony." He clicked on a small speaker, played a voice note. Helen's voice rang out, calm and clear as ever. Robert, if you're hearing this, it means you've reached the place of peace. I left this file in 2 layers. The outer one for the hasty to misjudge. The inner one for our family. The key is peaches, for Mason. Our family's justice must have discipline, and it must have heart. And every decision regarding this estate is voluntary, sound, and agreed upon. The room held its breath. I laid my fingertip on the H+R seal, tapped 3 times lightly. I said softly, but the mic caught it. Peaches. The lock released. I opened the appendix, the moral conditions, a handwritten apology template, and a notarized statement with 2 witnesses' signatures, along with stills from the video notary. I held it up for everyone to see, the seal, the paper glinting under the lights. No long explanation, just inked truth. Father Thomas read the sealed letter he had written. I attest, Mr. Robert Henderson is competent, voluntary, and these documents reflect prior agreements between him and Mrs. Helen. I recommend the family honor the conditions of community service attached. He folded the letter. Once unsealed, it would never be sealed again. Applause followed, gentle but lasting. I spoke into the mic. I didn't come here to defeat anyone. I came to close debts and open a door for those willing to change. I glanced at the back row. Emma bowed her head. Derek stared at his shoes. The MC invited the director to announce new standards: leather-covered warm handrails, call buttons with lights, room doors widened by 3 inches for wheelchairs, a therapy corner with softer lighting. I heard a veteran draw in a deep breath, an elderly woman whisper, "My back won't freeze anymore." When speeches ended, Marion rose and asked for the mic. "I have a short announcement." She held up a white envelope stamped with her law firm's name. The attorney Derek approached has declined to take the case. No standing, no right to sue. Capacity verified, competence confirmed. No coercion, no undue influence. Video notary and 2 witnesses exist. She spoke without looking at the back row. No need. Everyone understood. I didn't look at Derek. I only heard the slight scrape of a chair. The small shift of a man defeated by fact. At the letter giving, I returned to the middle row and signaled Mason. I took out the cotton paper envelope. Letter to Mason. I didn't read it aloud. I simply handed it to him before everyone. Mason held it with both hands, bowed his head. I said quietly enough for him. Money has memory. Hold the memory first, then the money. He nodded, eyes wet. No theatrics. The MC invited Emma if she had anything to say. I didn't urge her. I didn't stop her either. Emma rose, carrying her white envelope, and walked up. She opened it, pulled out a handwritten letter. Blue ink, slanted script. She read, steady. Dad, I'm sorry. I confused pride with decency, your silence with consent. I let others drag me and I closed my eyes. I've registered 12 weeks of volunteer service at the library on Tuesday evenings, starting next week. I will submit service logs weekly, to you and to the center. I am not asking for money. I am asking for the chance to make it right. She paused, looked up. I also brought the red receipt of the email I just sent Marion confirming the schedule. I don't want this apology to fade. I didn't clap. I only nodded. The hall clapped for me, solemn, not loud. Derek didn't approach the stage. He stood, pulled a small paper from his pocket, looked at it, put it back. Likely a draft of a lawsuit. He sat down, shoulders dropped. The director invited everyone to cut the ribbon. The velvet fell, the brass plaque shone. Helen Henderson Wing, built with care, dignity, and love. I placed my hand on its edge. It was warm, like another palm laid over mine long ago. I heard Helen's voice faintly. "That's right, Robert." The gala shifted to light refreshments. People lined up for cake and tea. Mason opened the peach pie box, cut a small slice for me. He smiled. The real thing. I nodded, took a bite. Sweet peach, buttery crust. Peaches, a simple word, unlocking exactly what needed to be unlocked. Marion pulled me